Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Todd's podcast. We have a wonderful guest on today who's been a friend since childhood. He tormented me in Little League along with all the other kids. I think he was shaving when he was 8 while we were still 4.5 feet tall. He was a demon on the mound, but it's my friend Jimmy Rabe. Jimmy is the owner and proprietor, creator of Smokin House of Barbecue. On Havendale Boulevard in the Auburndale, Winter Haven area. And Jimmy's, again, like I said, he's been a close friend forever. Graduated together, grew up together, played sports together, and kind of named Jimmy as the unofficial Pitmaster, barbecue master for our family. So whenever we have barbecues on our property or for political events, whenever possible, we always get Jim because he's great food and he always treats us like family. So, Jim, thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming in. And tell us a little bit about yourself and the business. I mean, you kind of started in 2005. What were you doing before that?
Well, I was driving before that, I worked at Lakeland Airport in Cypress Aviation for 20 years. And then after 9/11, that started to go south, and we ended up shutting the doors. So I came up with a wild idea of being a semi-truck driver, and that lasted 9 weeks, and I slipped and fell out of the truck and tore my knee, and the doctor said, you can't keep climbing in and out of a truck. I said, well, what else can you do? And I said, well, I can barbecue. So that's what I had to do.
So how'd you come up with that name? Obviously, your name is Jimmy. Jim's Rabe.
Well, we were just piddling around, and I went into a competition and stuff. And they said, well, you got to have a name. And I said, so then, well, what's it going to be? I said, well, Smokin Gems. And it just came to it. And then the slogan part, as far as the best butt in town, it was like, oh, that was so risque and stuff. But I was sitting on the beach and I said, I got to have a catchphrase here. And best butt in town came to it.
I am so thankful that that's how it came about, and it's not because you were a Calvin Klein underwear model in the early '80s. That was kind of I was really struggling to get through how you came up with the name of that.
And my barbecue's pretty good too, I tell you.
All right. So, had you ever cooked before? Had you ever catered, or everything just for family and friends?
Just family and friends. When I got done playing baseball on the weekends, like, what am I going to do on my weekends? And I built a grill to take to Lake Cannon Park, cook hamburgers and hot dogs and water ski for my 40th birthday. And Wayne Giddings was there and said, can you do this at my house next weekend? I said, yes, I can.
For a small fee.
So, yeah.
So it really just kind of was born out of that. It was not something you had a long desire.
I mean, people just started coming over to my house watching football and telling me how good it was. And I thought, well, they're telling me that because it's free. And
would you pay $10 for that chicken dinner?
Yeah. And it was neat. Just like this momentum got behind me. And every time I ran into a roadblock, somebody was there to fix it and take care of it. And
right.
We kept going.
And you bought your property in about 2005?
Yeah, I started 2004. I was rehabbing my knee from falling out of the truck. And
you know, how many people really fall out of a truck? That's almost a story that we should tell off air.
Well, if you put diesel fuel in your truck and then you climb up in the truck to pull it forward to clear the line, back out of your seat. No, okay. I went out frontwards, and my feet shot out from underneath me, and I was in Fort Pierce laying in the middle of the parking lot at a truck stop. So
Jimmy's falling, and he can't get up.
Help me, I've fallen. So, yeah, no. And I took that grill down to my family reunion in Anna Maria, and I cooked barbecue for the family and stuff. And like I said, I was rehabbing my knee at the time, so I was down at the beach just BSing the family. Yeah, I think I'm looking at a restaurant. And I was looking at that property, and I came back, and I had another cousin that from Anna Maria, she went down to Captiva for 2 weeks. So then that's when Hurricane Charlie hit, and it demolished part of that property, and I was just down there scrapping metal. And I wasn't going to be able to do it because I couldn't afford it or anything. And my cousin pulled up and said, is this the property you're talking about? I said, yeah, this is it. She said, can I see it? And I said, sure. I said, but it's, it's in foreclosure and I can't afford it. So I'm just down here scrapping some metal. And she walked through the gate and she got about 10 feet in. She turned, she said, this place is you. I'm calling Cousins and we're buying it out of foreclosure. You're renting from us. And I'm like, damn, now I'm in the restaurant business.
There's no turning back at that point.
I was committed to this. So, yeah.
So it started off kind of as a family fair. Everybody was behind you and they believed in you. Had you ever, in your wildest dreams, imagined being in the restaurant business?
No.
I mean, is it something you wanted to do for a long time or it just fell into your lap?
It just, like I said, it just doors closed, doors opened, and that's just was the path I took. I mean, my experience was working at Wendy's when I was 16 and then trying to get the smell of hamburger off of me to go out on a date afterwards. So that was all the experience I had. I had no restaurant experience or anything.
You worked at the Wendy's in Winter Haven?
Yeah.
Do you remember Bill Saunders?
Yes, I do.
He worked there too. I remember, I didn't know that you would work there. I remember him working there.
Yeah.
So in before the restaurant, you had a starring role in a movie, 1987 called Long Gone, with William Peterson, Virginia Madsen, and you were a very young Rusty Ledbetter.
28 years old.
28 years old. You were the romantic lead with Virginia, right?
I wish.
Okay. Tell us about that. I mean, I've heard the story, but I think it'd be kind of interesting to hear. How did they pick you?
It was strange. I was working out at the airport then, but I was running the semi-pro team in Lakeland, the Lakeland Dukes. I was running them. And HBO called and said, this is HBO. We want to look at your team. We were looking for some people to use in this baseball movie. And I thought it was a joke. I said, yeah, right. And I hung up. Well, they called my partner that was helping me run it. And he called me back and said, Jim, that really was HBO you hung up on.
Good career move, starting right out of the block.
Good career move. So they said, can we get some people together? They want to look at us down at Joker Marchant Stadium. And I said, yeah, I'll make some calls.
Here in Lakeland, Joker
Marchant. So I had a desk job at the time. So I went down there, met them at lunchtime. I'm in my street clothes. I got a few of the ball players out there. And they're out there playing catch and stuff. And I said, well, here's my team. I got to get back to work. Take a look at them. Hope it works out for you. And they said, well, we're taking pictures of everybody. Let me take a picture of you too. And I said, okay. Just took a picture of me. Like I said, I'm in street clothes. And I went back to work. Well, at 2 o'clock, they called and said, can you come over for a casting? I said, I didn't even play catch or anything. They said, no, we want you to come over. I said, okay. Well, it was at Harbor Island at 5 o'clock. And I drove over to Tampa to Harbor Island, and the building that they told me to go to, there was a line of people, ball players, softball players, 100 yards long. There was hundreds of guys standing out there. And I park, and this lady walks up to me and says, are you Jim Rabe? I said, yes. She said, well, they're waiting for you. Really? So she takes me around to the side door. I go past this line of people, go around the side door, and she takes me into a card. There's some people sitting at this card table, and one of them is Maud Adams, vice president of HBO. And the lady that came and got me says, this is Jim Rabe that you asked me to look for. And she looked up at me and she said, my God, tell me you're a redneck. I said, well, ma'am, I'm from Polk County.
Imperial Polk County.
I thought that summed it up pretty much. She said, well, there's a part in the movie for a redheaded pitcher from the South that chews tobacco and cusses. And I said, well, this casting's over.
That's right. Let me see if I can get into character. Wait, I'm already there.
She said, I think so too. And she said, take this and go to wardrobe. So I went from there straight to wardrobe and got outfitted for my uniform.
So how many days were you on set for shooting?
For a week.
You were there for a week.
Yeah. And again, they had a lady assigned to me and stuff because they shot the scene that I was in. It was like 2 days. It was supposedly the 9th inning.
And weren't you a nasty reliever that was coming on?
No, well, the guy that came in finally, but I was the starter.
The starter, okay.
And they made me walk the bases loaded to get to William Peterson, Stud Cantrell. And that's when they took me out. They brought in the reliever to face him.
Okay.
But, yeah, but they had a lady, because they were filming in the 9th inning, so I'm supposed to look all hot and sweaty. She would take my uniform out and drag it around the infield, at 6:30 in the morning. So when I showed up at 7:30, put on this dirty uniform, I was ready to start filming. So
You're probably the dirtiest pitcher ever with clay all over your uniform.
at 7 in the morning already, yeah.
I remember I was flipping through HBO and saw that movie, and then I saw that. I said, "Oh my God, Jim Rabe is in a freaking movie." And
I got that response a lot. I had a cousin said he fell off the couch. He was sitting up one night.
that must be something in your family. You fell out of a truck. You fell off of a couch. Was it a good experience for you?
It was a lot of fun, really was. And William Peterson was a great guy. Henry Gibson was a good guy. So it was neat.
Good. And that wasn't a springboard to any other.
No,
They didn't have a read for a nasty tobacco chewing redneck.
No. I thought I was going to career move to Hollywood, but it didn't work out.
Todd's podcast is sponsored in part by Saunders Real Estate, your trusted partner in land and commercial real estate since 1996. With over 125 expert advisors located throughout the Southeast United States, the full-service brokerage specializes in a wide range of property types from farms and ranches to commercial buildings and development land. If you're looking to build your legacy with a confident investment, please visit saundersrealestate.com or call 877-518-5263 to connect with an advisor today. When you were in high school, you played baseball. We're going to talk a little bit about baseball, then we're going to talk about barbecue. You were drafted and you pitched.
I got signed. I wasn't drafted.
Okay, you signed. Okay.
When coming out of high school, Brian Pierce and Rick Barely and I were going to go to Polk State.
Right.
And that was the year they dropped their baseball program.
Oh.
And so we were like, whoa. Well, they ended up going down to around Fort Myers, I forget the name of that college down there. But I didn't have anywhere. Well, they went the next year. So we were all sitting around that first year. And then I saw a little ad in the paper about Lakeland Duke's tryout, semi-pro team. I said, well, let's go do this. Rick and I went over to go do that. And the guy that was running the tryouts says to me, he says, you don't belong here. He says, I'm friends with the owner of the Lakeland Tigers. I'm going to call the owner and get you a tryout with the Lakeland Tigers. Okay. I mean, I just went to try out for the Dukes, and now you got me throwing for the Tigers. This will work.
Starred in a movie with Virginia Madsen, and I mean, life's pretty good for
he says,
the Golden Boy.
So he calls me that night, and he says, just go down to Joker March's Stadium in Lakeland there and knock on the clubhouse door. The manager sleeps in the clubhouse. He'll get up, come out, and catch you in your tryout. And I said, okay. I show up 9 o'clock in the morning, knock on the clubhouse door, and I hear this, all this coughing and carrying on. And Jim Leland comes out and catches me in my tryout. So that was like the top of my career. Yeah, that was pretty amazing. He signed me right here on the spot.
So how long do you play?
2 years.
2 years.
And then I went to Canada and played up there for 2 years.
Could you hit, or could you were you just a pitcher, or could you hit?
I could hit in Canada. I didn't in the minor leagues though. I was just pitching.
Okay. Were you a good hitter?
I did pretty good. Yeah.
So you're on the mound. What's your go-to pitch to get a guy out?
Slider.
Slider?
Yeah.
Okay. I laugh and joke, and I mentioned it earlier. I think you were shaving when you were 8, and the rest of us were.
I wish I knew I intimidated y'all so much.
You didn't. Timmy scared the heck out of us. You and Timmy Jackson and Timmy Bullington and Drew Ireland. Y'all were the people that I feared the most in Little League and in Pony League, and then we started catching up a little bit on size. But
Well, they were in Drew Ireland. They were wild. They would hit you.
Yes, everyone. That's why you all scared us. You were a foot taller and you threw a lot faster than we could get out of the way, and you had no idea where your fastball was going.
No, not a clue. If I kept it between the dugouts, I was doing good.
So let's talk about the barbecue business, because that's really why you're here. Looking on your website, the slogan on there is, "I wanted a restaurant where diners feel like they're dining in my home." Mm-hmm. I think that's a wonderful approach to how you cook. I really do, and I think that you do that. Did you ever think of anything other than a barbecue business, or did you always do that because that's kind of how you fell into it, because you were cooking barbecue for your family and friends?
Yeah, I mean,
had you been cooking sushi or rolling sushi, it might have been Jim Ray.
Tacos or something. Yeah. Well, I mean, as you know, my father passed away when I was young, 11 years old.
I remember.
And we used to always grill steaks out and stuff. So my mother's like, well, now you need to take over the grill. And I did. And I just always enjoyed the cooking steaks, the cooking out. And the slogan for the restaurant, like you're coming over to my house, that's how it all got started, was just people coming over. We're grilling out in the backyard. And that went into the barbecue thing. And that's how we got started on it.
Yeah. Well, you've got a very family-friendly restaurant, very family-friendly menu. Yeah, I always liked that, and I'll tell you, whenever I tell my mom I'm with you, or I've seen you, or I talk to you, she says, "Well, tell Jimmy hello, and did you bring me any ribs?"
Well,
I mean, that's the whole thing. Is did you bring me any ribs? I mean, you being good and fine is secondary. Did you bring me ribs? So I told her I was going to be talking to you today, and I'm sure when I tell her this afternoon, hey, Todd had a good interview with Jimmy. Did you bring me any ribs? So I'm at to swing by there.
Please do. Let's hook her up.
You also do steak night. Is that your most popular night?
Yeah, Saturday night's our most popular night, and then that's how we really got started with the grill and everything in the backyard, was the cooking steaks and stuff. And then when I went into the barbecue part, I had asked somebody about it, and they sent me over to Lake Wales to a steakhouse and stuff. And I was like, I went over there and tried it, and I was said, man, I could do this. So about a year into the barbecue business, I came up with steak night. And I hired this chef and stuff. I didn't know he was diabetic, and we had like a line out the door for steaks and stuff, and he fell out.
Wow.
And I talk about on-the-job training. I had to take over the grill right there on the spot with like 30 steaks on it. It was like, woo, but we pulled it off.
Welcome to being an owner of your own business. If someone goes down, you're next up.
Next man up.
Hey, the janitor's down. Jim, get in there and fix the bathroom.
Yeah.
What have you learned about having the proper location, signage, ingress and egress? I mean, the property that you're on now, it's worked out well for you. I'm sure at the time, from what I remember, there was not a whole lot of market research. It was like, here's a great building, here's a great location. You get kind of a gut feeling.
Yeah, and the demographics on it was surprising. I mean, this was in '04, and they were telling me that they'd done a survey, and 28,000 cars a day went by there. And I thought, well, wow, I didn't know it was that much. I mean, that helps. It's a little tough getting in and out of ours. It would help,
if you're going the right direction, it's not hard at all.
It's easy, yeah. But,
right in, right out's easy. Left in, left out stuff.
Yeah, a little tough. So, but location's very important. I wish I was on Cypress Gardens Boulevard, but can't.
You're paying Cypress Gardens Boulevard prices.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Inflation has exploded recently. How's that affected what you've done? I know that when I would come in and get, I'm a rib guy. That's typically what I get, or some brisket. But it's like, hey, I need a slab of ribs, and it was this. And the next time it's like, holy cow, it's like $10 a slab more. Just to walk out the door for me. And I know that was food prices. It wasn't you.
I
buying a bigger
fought
truck
it for a long
whatever.
time. No, I mean, for a long time, I didn't want to have to go up on prices and stuff. But man, I mean, we all been to the grocery store and you see what you're paying and stuff. And eventually, I had to. And
at some point, a restaurateur can absorb inflation and can absorb prices. But at some point, you had to say, I've got to pass this on.
I do.
This is too much of my profit margin. I still have to pay my employees. I still got to pay the electric bill.
You got to, you watch your food costs all the time. A good example is the brisket. I mean, when I opened up, nobody knew what to do with a brisket, and it was like $1.70 a pound. And all the barbecue shows and everything, people watching how to cook a brisket, now it's $7 a pound. So
just for you to buy it.
Just for me to buy it. And then I carve off about 3 pounds of fat.
Yeah.
It's like, they're $21 in the garbage.
Yeah. Do you use a local supplier?
Just Cheney Brothers.
Cheney Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
What's been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome? I mean, COVID obviously was a challenge that everyone dealt with. Minimum wage has gone through the roof. We've had some conversations about that, finding employable people. What have you dealt with, and how have you had to overcome it?
Well, you got to keep thinking on your feet all the time, keep moving. The COVID, I lost some employees there that couldn't work because of COVID. Somebody was a type 1 diabetic. I said, well, that's not going to work.
That wasn't your chef, was it? Your
No,
steak chef, was it?
no, that was somebody at the window that was greeting everybody. It was like, so, and then we were pretty busy, but I was down to a core group and about to work us to death. So that's when we went to 4 days a week instead of 5. And, you just, and finding the good people, and it's so tough because it's, I'm looking at about 30, 35 hours a week for people, and a lot of people wanting full time. And, I worked at Smokin Gems at one time when it was Simpson's Grove Service, and I was hoeing weeds in a grove making $2 an hour. Now I tell everybody I owned the place and took a pay cut. But I'm slow to adjust to the minimum wage thing. Now it's $13 an hour is minimum wage, and it's the same people you were paying $8 an hour before. So you got to. But if you want good help, you got to pay them.
Yeah. Are you having trouble finding people that are willing to do that type of work for that wage?
It's
some jobs are easier to fill than others.
A lot of drama, people's lives and stuff. But it gets, unfortunately, it seems like there's something in the water. I've had 2 of them get pregnant.
Stay out of that lake.
Yeah, stay out of that lake.
Those deadly amoeba that are floating around.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who's thinking, hey, I'm cooking in the backyard, I can do this, I can go out and buy a
Better
restaurant,
love it.
I can sink a couple $100,000 and start hiring people? What would you say to them if they're saying, hey, Jim, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think?
If you better love it, have a real passion for it, and be willing to give up a lot of your social life, because that's where you're going to have to live. You got to be there all the time.
People want to eat on Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah, and then they want you to cater their family reunion on your day off, and so you got to make a serious commitment to it and surround yourself with good people. I was very fortunate. I think I kind of made it look a little easy the way my family went in and bought the property for me, and then I bought them all out and stuff. But, they were behind me, and then somebody that worked at the restaurant before came in and set my kitchen up, Monica, God bless her. And so having the right people to fill the right spots helps a lot.
Hey, this is Chad Ward, owner of Whiskey Bent Barbecue, and I want to thank you for listening to Todd's Podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe to Todd's Podcast on your favorite podcast app to get notified every time Todd releases a new episode. You won't be disappointed.
I told some folks that you were coming on a podcast. I said, hey, if you had a chance to ask Jim some questions, what would you ask him? And so
who's the question coming from?
Well, they're all real people.
Real people.
They are real people.
They're going to stay anonymous?
No, I'm going to give you the first name. I'm not going to give you the second name. And when we're done, I'll tell you who they are. But this is from James from Winter Haven. I think James is the same James that works at the Chevy Center. He sold me my last 3 vehicle, James. And he likes to cook. He doesn't do that much competition, but he goes to the big shows and he does vending. And my son Jacob, Jacob vends with him. And he asked if you ever cooked in competition, and if so, what are some of the tricks of the trade to woo the judges? Or now, are you strictly just doing your restaurant, your catering, takeout? Do you
Well, that competition stuff, that's a young man's game there.
Well, you started as a middle-aged man. You didn't start in your 20s. So you still had the best butt in town at 40. Very subjective.
Not a little older, but young and dumb kind of. But the competitions are a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
There's not much sleep for 3 days because you have to look. You have to load everything. You put all the your meat. Yeah, you can't prep it or anything. You have to go over there, unload. The judges inspect your meat, make sure you haven't done anything to it. And then once they inspect it and give you the okay, then you can prep it.
So you don't get the meat from the competition. You can bring your own.
You bring your own meat,
okay.
But you can't have it open and prepped or anything.
Okay. It's still need to be cryovac or vacuum sealed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then the judge inspects it, says, okay, this is all legit. And then you can prep it. Then you cook it all night long. Then you sell it all day long. And then you got to load everything back up.
You might have a couple of beer in between.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then your buddies show up, and they're going to help you cook all night long, and they're passed out around the grill, and yeah, that was a Barry Costello moment.
I understand.
And so, yeah, they all want to help, but they get sidetracked along the way. Yeah. But it's a lot of fun. And as far as the judges and stuff, you really kind of have to know, like the Lakeland, it was Kansas City barbecue. I always did really good with the Kansas City. And it was a dry rub that I did and stuff. And I came in second or came in third one year, came in like fifth the next year. But when I did the smoke on the water, that's Florida Barbecue Association, and I'm not sure what they were looking for, because I came in butt last, dead ass last, and I was like, wow. It made me feel good, because when I got all loaded up and I went back to the restaurant, I had a line out the door, and I said, well, somebody likes my barbecue.
That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when you go to the competitions, they tell you, hey, we're Kansas City style,
Yeah.
we're North Carolina,
We're Florida style.
So you know that going in.
Yeah.
It's not
you
your
just
own
got to figure out what
preference.
their taste is.
Okay.
You know, I mean, are they looking for a sweet barbecue? They want a dry barbecue? What's their definition of tender?
Did they have a good night last night? Or are they mad at their dog or whatever?
I mean, I turned in one slab of ribs, and I got you're judged from 1 to 10, and I had like 9.5, 2 10s, and one judge gave me a 6. I'm like, and it was all the same slab of ribs. I'm like,
And a 3 from the Russian.
Yeah, and I got 3 from the Russian.
Yeah.
And that knocked me out of the scoring. So I was like, okay.
They don't throw out the high and the low just to get the outliers.
no,
That's tough if you have to get them all.
Yeah,
high.
you got one with an attitude, didn't like it.
So Blake from California, he wants to know, what kind of style of barbecue do you cook at your restaurant? Is it Kansas City? Is it Texas?
I kind of think it's a little bit falls more in North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Yeah, because I went up to Charlotte with my uncle, and I was up visiting him and stuff, and he says, well, come on, we're going to a barn raising, and went to help this guy build his barn, and they were doing a pig picking, and I was like, man, I got to learn how to do this. This is good. So a little bit of vinegar-based sauce, so, yeah. Not like the South Carolina style where they put coleslaw on their shredded pork.
Right.
Mustard based more in South Carolina.
What I've always liked about you is you go kind of heavier on the pepper too.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that. It's like, man, this is different than I'm used to eating around here.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I really like about yours is that, and I do like your vinegary type sauces.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob wants to know, do you eat your? He sent me this morning, so this is a legitimate question.
No,
He said, this is my Jacob, so I'll give you credit for that. Do you eat your own barbecue? And then I added on, or have you had so much in your life now as a professional? Do you just taste it to make sure, hey, I can sell this. This is ready to sell.
I go by and give it a taste once in a while and stuff, but I've had so much barbecue, I don't eat it anymore. Only time I'll eat barbecue if I go somewhere out of town or something, or I went to Colorado and I said, well, let me check this out and see what they're doing out here.
Almost market research.
Yeah, and but I had to get them to call them over and identify what I was looking at. I wasn't sure what it was.
The Rocky Mountain Oyster, man.
Yeah, this is the best barbecue in Colorado. Oh, I could make a killing out here.
Yeah. Do you cook at home, or does that fall on Cindy, or?
I just bring it from the restaurant. Yeah. No, I don't cook much anymore. Once in a while, we'll get the grill out and do burgers and stuff like that.
But you eat normal food at home. I mean, obviously, if you eat barbecue all the time, you all both have to say, let's just eat like.
And even with the employees, I'll give them an employee meal and stuff. And boy, when they first there, they can't. They are all over that employee meal. And boy, after about 3 or 4 months, like they walk out empty-handed. Like,
can you give me a coupon for a pizza down the road or some hamburgers?
Yeah, I get Domino's delivering to the to-go window. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Dan from Michigan, again, legitimate guy. He cooks for us here. He said, what's your preferred wood and where do you source it from? And I never in my wildest dream thought that would be a question I ask. And then when he told me, it's like,
oh, wood serious.
That's a very important question because it imparts some of the flavor.
Well, of course, just oak is the most prevalent around here. I do a little bit of hickory, but I've really gotten into the applewood lately, and I just get the go to Publix, you can buy a bag of applewood chunks and stuff, but I soak them in water, and I use that on the smoker so that, if they're dry, they just burn up real quick.
Right.
But if you soak them in water and stuff, they smoke a little more and it lasts longer and stuff, and I use that a lot. Citrus wood for cooking steaks, because that's a hotter burn. And
Plenty of citrus wood around, sadly.
it was real abundant there for a little while.
Yeah.
Now you got to go hunting for it. Yeah.
Big John from Eloise, he wants to know, I'm a backyard weekend warrior. What about the new technology for people that are cooking like backyard guys, like the thermometers, the quality of the thermometers, the pellet grills?
Pellet grills, and you can hook them up to your phone and run your temperature.
Yeah, what do you think about that? This guy's got a big green egg. I've had dinner with him, and he's an excellent cook. I like eating there at his house. But, I mean, is that cheating, or do you say, where was this 25 years ago?
Everybody's doing it. I mean, we had to stay up all night long, keep checking the thermometer on the grill door. But no,
now you can sleep in.
Yeah,
roll
set
over
the alarm. If it goes below this temperature, call me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you smoke overnight?
I do. I do the butts and the brisket all night because I like to go slow, low and slow, and about 220 degrees for about 15 hours on the brisket, and it's really good.
So that's a great tip. I mean, I'm not asking you to give all your restaurant tips, but that's a great tip for someone is don't rush it.
No.
As a low temperature for a long period of time.
Low and slow. And it's, if you want to know if a place is any good or not, just go try their brisket, because that's the toughest one to cook. And that was the last one I figured out and stuff, because before the competition, I was practicing in my backyard, and I got so disgusted, I threw it away. And I remember seeing my dog running across the backyard dragging this brisket.
That little 2-ounce dog that you have at your house, the 2 or 3 2-ounce dogs?
This is back when I had a boxer.
A real dog?
Yeah, a real dog. 85-pound boxer named Smoker.
Okay.
Yeah, he would run across the backyard dragging that brisket. And so I went.
So how did that boxer taste after you caught him up with taking your brisket?
So the next weekend, I was over at Pig Fest in Lakeland, and Jeff Rogers was helping me out over there, and we put the brisket on, and I had forgotten about it, and it cooked all night down at the bottom of the grill. And then they said it's time. They had fallen asleep a couple times, and they said, it's time to turn in the brisket. I went, oh my gosh, I forgot. And I pulled it out of the bottom of the grill, and it had been down there for like 12 hours. And I cut into it, and I just started high-fiving. We got a winner. It was
really
delicious. So tender. It had cooked long enough. You got to cook it a long time.
So your guys that cook overnight, you give them a cot, or you make them sleep on a pile of wood down there?
No. I got fancy equipment now. It's called a hickory, Southern Pride's.
Right.
That's what most of your commercial barbecue places have. I just set the temperature the night before I leave, and then when I come back in the morning, it's still there, sitting there.
Catering. So you do a lot of catering. We've talked about that.
I love it. Yeah.
Big jobs, small jobs. What's the biggest cater?
5,000 people.
Okay.
Coca-Cola at Lake Myrtle Park.
What did you fix? Or what did you cook?
Hamburgers, hot dogs, and shredded pork.
Okay.
And then we did baked beans, coleslaw, and potato salad.
So how do you plan out a meal like that? You say, okay, for one serving, it's one scoop of beans, and for 5,000, I got to have 5,000 scoops, or...
Well, not everybody's going to eat that scoop.
Right.
So you kind of factor in a number there. I was like, how do I figure this out? And they said, well, figure it out for 10 people, then start adding zeros. Just start adding to it. Okay, so now if this is what I'm going to do for 10, now do it for 100. And go that way. So the more meats there are, not everybody's going to have chicken and a rib. So someone's going to want a rib and some shredded pork. So, you don't have to do. And I don't want anybody leaving one of my caterings hungry. So I always try to overshoot a little bit.
How many butts did you have to cook that day? You remember?
I do remember. It was 8 cases. There's 64 butts I did. So yeah.
Wow.
That's about 600 pounds of pork. Well,
Do you do small catering jobs? Like
yeah.
if someone said, "Hey, I need you to cook for my family of 4," I mean, or would you just say, "Hey, come to the restaurant"?
Yeah. I mean, we do a family feast that feeds 10, and if it's like 20 people, I said, why don't you just get 2 of these, because it's got ribs, chicken, pork, and then you get 5 sides with it, so you pick out what sides you want.
And I know that when we've hired you, you either bring people to serve if it's a big enough party and we don't want to serve, or you're happy to bring the food and deliver and finish it there. And
most of the ones I do now is I bring it all. It's in pans, turnkey, ready to go, and I bring all the plates, utensils, serving tongs,
total
spoons,
setups, tea, ice, everything.
Yeah, we can do it all, and it's all throwaway, and you can serve yourself. If you want me to stick around and serve it, we can do that too.
Right. What's your favorite thing to cook?
I really like cooking the brisket now. I've gotten into doing the brisket quite a bit and been tinkering with it a little bit, and really proud of what we got coming off the grill.
You change your recipes up very often?
Yeah, I have, because I changed the style of the cooking and stuff, and I've gone to a little bit more of a drier rub on it, and I like the way it's coming out now. It's got some new peppers on it.
How do you decide when it's either time to introduce a new item to your menu? Because I think a couple of years ago you put the redneck egg rolls on.
Yeah,
I think I was there when you first rolled them out, and you said, "Here, try this. We're just working on them."
Yeah.
And how do you decide, hey, it's time to add something new or take something off?
You see the business. I mean, if something's starting to back up, like it's not moving, I got to make a change. And the egg roll thing, there was another barbecue place that was doing a lot of those and stuff, and then they went out of business. And I said, well, it looks like there's a lane there for that. I mean,
are you still doing them?
Yeah,
good, because they're excellent. Yeah. I mean, they're very good.
Yeah,
I'm glad you
still are.
Have you introduced some items that were just real stinkers that didn't go over, or do you, hey, I'm going to wear my family out eating this stuff, and if they all say, hey, yeah, this is good, Jim or Uncle Jim, or
when we did the steaks, the mushroom, we do the steaks at the house. It was always had a mushroom gravy. And I thought, well, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do this mushroom gravy. Well, the mushrooms didn't go over real good. So now I just do the sauce without the mushrooms in it. And then it took off. So, I've done a couple. I do a really good chopped chicken, but it just doesn't get traction
right
in the restaurant and stuff. But it'll go good on a catering when I sell it. But just people walking up, you always want the bone-in chicken. So.
Hey, everybody, this is your host, Todd Dantzler. As most of you know, I'm a partner with Saunders Real Estate and have been a very active and working broker for over 42 years. I have fostered strong relationships throughout the state of Florida, working on properties ranging from agriculture and development land to multifamily, commercial, and industrial projects. If you have any real estate needs at all, please give me a call. I'd love to help. My direct line is 863-877-2846. Thank you. Before we went on and started recording, you said, you'd thrown on some wings and 46 racks of ribs. Is that a tip? How many ribs or racks do you put on a day?
Usually about 36. On Saturday, I'll do like 48. It comes in packs of 12, so cases of 12. So that's what I'll stick with.
And what night is steak night?
Saturday night.
4
o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Do you need a reservation?
No.
Nope.
Come
just
on
stop
in. Walk in.
If you had to do it all over again, would you do it?
Absolutely. In a heartbeat.
What would you do differently? Hit the lotto first, so you don't have to worry about some of that stuff?
Probably educate myself a little bit more on the marketing and all that. I mean, because I did a lot of just the good old boy. I mean, when we first opened up.
Trial and error.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was at every cakewalk, every event, every meeting, passing out food and stuff. Just the marketing part. I mean, you use all aspects of business in the restaurant business, accounting, all that. Don't be quite so trusting on some people.
Yeah, I understand. But I'm glad to know that you would do it again.
Oh, in a heartbeat. It's been such a joy to watch. I mean, 20 years I've spent there now, and it's like I watch people carrying their kids in little carriers and stuff, and now they're driving them to the restaurant.
Right.
I'm catering their weddings. And it's like, geez.
Do you do many weddings that you cater?
I do. casual weddings.
Casual weddings, yeah. I mean,
I charge
rice
extra
with
if I-
barbecue sauce all down the
Yeah,
front of
I
their
charge
nice
extra
white
if I have to dress up.
Well, if we were having video also, you would see Jim smiling. I mean, you can tell that he has passion for barbecue and he really enjoys his business. It is not an easy business.
It is not.
Few businesses are easy. I mean, in reality, I mean, my business is hard sometimes. Sometimes it's easy.
Got to work. Got to want to work.
You got to work. And I think that's what's coming through is you've got to have that passion. You've got to be innovative. And like you said, when you went to Colorado, you went to a barbecue place and say, hey, what are they serving? Maybe I can bring something back. Maybe they're doing their redneck egg rolls a little different or whatever it may be. And you're always learning.
Moose sausage ain't going to move it down here. I don't think.
No. Do you do a sausage?
I'm not right now, but that's one of the things I need to look back into doing again because we were doing it for a while.
Were you making your own or were you just buying it?
We were. I was using a different cut of ribs and stuff, and I was using the trimmings off of it to make the sausage with. Now I'm going with a St. Louis style rib where there's no trimmings or anything, and so we're not doing it. But that's another thing is it's got to move consistently,
right?
And the sausage would hit spurts where I couldn't keep it.
Right.
I mean, it was selling so fast, and then all of a sudden it's backing up when I'm starting to see trays of it in the walk-in. I say, well, time to move on to something else here. Yeah.
So that's a good way to do your management of your menu is, hey, what's not selling? Let's make less of it, or let's rotate something else in and
make it cheap.
Bring it back as a special.
Yeah.
And
I've kind of found if you take it away from them for a little while and then bring it back, it works out pretty good. Like I was doing the fish, and the fish was going really well on Friday nights.
Really?
But then...
What kind of fish were you serving?
Catfish. Fried catfish.
Catfish.
Yeah, and it was doing well. But then it just kind of dried up, and now I'm getting people saying, when are you bringing the fish back? I said, well, when you start showing up consistently here, we'll do it.
Well, pay attention to McDonald's. They're masters at this, and they
they're not
they
bringing
bring the McRib back and they
the
take
McRib.
it away.
Oh my gosh, I'm going out of business. The McRib's coming back.
I'm not sure I've ever even had one. I might have had one, but that's what they do is they'll take it away, and then there's this big promo. Hey, the McRib's coming back. Like you better get it now, and that may be a way to look at some of the things. And if you pay attention to these big national guys and gals,
they know what they're doing.
They pay a lot of people to tell them what to do too.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that we haven't talked about? I got a couple more things I want to ask you about, but I didn't want to not ask you something that we had talked about, and we were going through things.
Going good.
In 2012, you were the Grand Marshal for the Auburndale Christmas Parade.
Wait a minute.
I think I saw you because I wasn't riding in the back part of the parade.
Yeah.
You were up front. I was in there as a lowly elected official.
Well, when I opened up the restaurant, there was a Mickey Etherton was doing the Parks and Recreation for Auburndale, and he was in charge of the parade and stuff. And the last minute, and this was the year before I was the Grand Marshal, and I said, well, can you get me in the parade? He said, yeah. And I said, I want to pull my grill and be in the parade. And she said, all right, come down here we're in the Lake Hartridge retirement home. Mm-hmm. And I pull in down there. He says, pull in right there behind Minnie Mouse. And Minnie Mouse was number 2, and then I was number 3. He comes over and says, how'd I do? I said, you done good.
And then the next year you were
the Grand Marshal.
You weren't pulling your grill behind the fire truck.
I got to ride in that antique fire truck. That was cool.
All right. You weren't throwing out brisket and samples and having
that's what everybody said. Well, throw me a rib. Throw me a rib.
A couple of baseball things. Pete Rose. I mean, you didn't, just because we've talked baseball in the past and we've got friends who have done well in it. Should he get in or not into the Hall? What do you think?
Yes. Hall of Fame's not about character. You'd have to throw Ty Cobb out if he was. I listened to an interview that Dan Patrick did with Johnny Bench, and you could hear the hurt in Johnny Bench's voice and stuff. Because he says, all we're talking about is Pete and his gambling.
Right.
And he wouldn't listen. He wouldn't stop. We're not talking about the guy that got 4,200 hits.
Yeah. What he did between the lines.
Yeah. And I think that's a shame. I think he should be in the Hall.
So what about the steroid guys? You think that's different?
Yeah. I think eventually that'll work itself out there, but they need to be a while. I think it'll come around eventually and stuff.
Do you think they all need to die off and then could get in posthumously? I don't mean that ugly.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, do you think that there needs to be a lot more time, or hey, it'd be nice towards the end of their lives they get voted in because they did do a lot?
They did, they competed.
I mean, some of those guys were amazing before they took.
Yeah, and it was pretty level across the field. Not, I won't say everybody was doing it, but it was so rampant.
Was it really?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't just the superstars.
No.
It was the also rans that made them into decent players.
It was the bowl of, looked like juju beans on the clubhouse table.
Really?
Yeah.
So they just decided to pick out, to target the most high profile.
Yeah, and
athletes,
it just, and then it just got bigger and bigger, and some of them just took it. I mean, A-Rod and Manny Ramirez. They had stuff to take so they could pass the tests and stuff. So they knew what to take each day and all that. It got pretty scientific.
Wow. How about the pitch clock? The stuff they're doing now.
I like it.
You were a pitcher.
Yeah.
Would you like to have had an artificial barrier that said, "Hey Jim, you better get rid of this ball, or at least start your motion before"?
Yeah, you want to keep because infielders have a tendency to fall asleep if you're working slow. You want keep the pace going. So yeah, I like the uptick in the tempo of the game.
What's next for you? What do you're enjoying the business? I mean, you're also enjoying fishing and having a cold beer on the lake every so often. And
well, there's one thing we got to cover on the baseball though.
Yeah.
I am the only person to ever struck out all three Dantzler brothers.
Well, I did not know that.
Yes.
Did any of us ever hit a home run off of you?
No.
Really?
No. Rick was the tough. Yeah.
I thought Brad would have been a tougher hitter. But Rick would have been older, so he would have been a few years older than you. Brad was a baby when you were playing.
And it might have been might have gotten a benefit of a wide strike zone there, but yeah, because he went a long time without ever striking out. And,
who, Rick?
Yeah, in college and stuff, he went a whole year without striking out. And so that was my goal, was to strike him out.
Well, they must not have been as scared of you as I was. And I just didn't want to get hit. Well, I hope they're listening, and I'll have to ask them and say, which one of you son of a guns?
I'm surprised Rick hasn't called in yet.
Well, we're not quite live, but after he listens to this, I'm sure he'll say something, and he'll probably refute that. Brad will say, "Oh yeah, I like hitting off of Jimmy, but he did strike me out." So you do a lot of your marketing is on Facebook.
Yeah.
I in preparation for this, again, we've known each other forever, but you still have to do some research. Your Facebook page is worth everyone signing up for. The memes you have on that are you falling out of trucks. I was falling out of my chair in my office looking at some of those, and they were hilarious. I passed them along. It's a lighthearted page. It's not heavy, but you talk about what's going on at the restaurant, what's going on in your life. People, you want to tell us how to get in touch with you, what the address of your restaurant is, your hours. I'm going to recommend the ribs. Sounds like Jim's going to recommend the brisket. So take a little bit of both home. Take some banana pudding.
Yeah, we do
and
a combo
I like
there.
the beans too. So
yeah. Well, I'm at 3615 Havendale Boulevard.
Just west of Jersey Road.
Just west of Jersey Road. If you get to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, you've gone too far. So, but Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 8, Saturday night steak night. We're just started several new all-you-can-eat. Thursdays are all-you-can-eat chicken. Tonight's all-you-can-eat ribs. Steak night tomorrow night.
And your Facebook, Eli doesn't have Facebook, so I don't know how to tell people to get to your Facebook page.
Facebook's just Jim Rabe on Facebook, but Smokin Jim's got a website, Smokin Jim's BBQ, and you can check us out on the website there. And keep watching, because we're trying new specials and stuff coming out.
Good. And again, I mean, I'm not saying this because we're old friends, but we are old friends. But go by and get some food and take it home. I mean,
please, hope to see you.
Now that my mom knows I'm doing this, I'll be probably coming by this afternoon for
I'll
some
be
ribs
telling her if you don't.
I know that. And every time I'm with you, you always ask me how my mom's doing too, and I appreciate that.
Beautiful lady.
You've been a wonderful friend of the family. And I want to thank you for coming in.
Oh.
Eli, is there anything that I missed that you can think of?
Nope, that was great.
All right. So, Jim, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's
Appreciate
been a
you
pleasure
coming
doing
in.
it.
Been great being friends forever. And
I thought Todd's podcast was going to hurt. This has been fun.
No. It was never meant to hurt. Not like your wild high and inside pitch that probably hit me in the back and made me cry. I'm glad we can laugh about it now, but you should have been banned from Little League. You were probably on steroids back when you were 11 years old throwing that kind of stuff. So thank you for coming in. Thanks for being a friend. Thanks for feeding our family forever and our friends, and appreciate our relationship. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, everybody. I want to thank you for listening to Todd's podcast. This has been your host, Todd Dantzler. If you enjoyed this episode of Todd's podcast, I hope you'll join us next time when we have Special Agent Tommy Ray and Special Agent Nick Del Castillo. They talk about some very interesting cases. They talk about cold case playing cards, some of the cases they work together, and some of their friendships. So I think it's a very entertaining episode, and I hope you'll join us. As always, don't forget to rate, review, follow, and subscribe to Todd's podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you have any questions for me or any suggestions for future guests, please call or text our number at 863-288-0944 or visit todddantzler.com. Again, that's 863-288-0944 or visit my website, todddantzler.com. I look forward to hearing your questions and feedback, and please take care.